everyone, welcome back to The 3 Show. We hope everyone had an awesome Thanksgiving that was filled with plenty of NA3HL action across the weekend, so let's go ahead and recap those games. Starting off in the Central, there was quite a bit of parity in the division last weekend as Wausau and St. Louis split their two-game set. The Junior Blues had arguably their most impressive win of the season as they shut out the first-place Cyclones by a score of 4-0 as their netminder picked up his first shutout of the season. On Saturday, the Cyclones came back with vengeance, coming out on top by a score of 8-1 as 4 different players registered 3 points, including Jake Garrow, who had a 2-goal performance. In the East, the Nordiques were able to get back in the win column after an overtime victory over the Mountain Kings on Wednesday by a final score of 3-2. After a scoreless first period, teams went back and forth in scoring, with New Hampshire holding a 2-1 lead late into the third period before Maine tied things up at the 17:10 mark. 07 forward Brody Emmond would be the hero for Maine, scoring the game winner, his 10th overall goal of the 2024-25 season. Meanwhile, between the pipes, Gabe Pomerleau stood tall, turning away 42 of 44 shots to pick up his 6th win of the year. In the Frontier, Helena had another dominant weekend, sweeping the Gillette Wild by scores of 5-2 and 8-3. The star of not only the Bighorns offense, but the star of the week for the division was 06 Austin Uker, who racked up 6 points in 2 games, his best 2-game stretch of the season. Of his 6 points, he managed to score 3 goals while dishing out 3 assists. Going 9-1 in their last 10, DeMond Hansen's squad sits quite comfortably in first place with 40 points, 6 points ahead of Sheridan with 2 less games played. Down in the South, the Rhinos took 2 out of 3 games against the Ice Wolves, an incredibly impressive performance after being swept during their first meeting of the season. Friday night began with a shootout where El Paso took the W by a score of 3-2, Brooks Fergers being the only player to score in both regulation and the shootout. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the hero for the Rhinos would be Britton Oldham, who scored a pair of goals in the final frame, including the game winner as El Paso picked up 4 points on the weekend. Finishing things out in the West, after dropping Game 1 of the week to Wilmer, the Blizzard were able to get back in the win column, taking their second game against the Warhawks, in addition to another victory over the Moose. Both games were filled with plenty of scoring as Jack Carter and Marcus Olson potted 2 goals apiece during Friday's 6-3 contest. Meanwhile, during Saturday's tilt, John Dubé and Eli Fletcher also tallied 2 goals apiece, but it would be Zach Benson to score his first goal of the 2024-25 campaign to seal the deal against Minnesota at the 8:16 mark of the final frame. Per usual, we have an action-packed weekend coming up here in the NA3HL, so let's go ahead and highlight some matchups in each division. We will have a pair of cross-divisional matchups as the Woodsmen and Moose will face off, in addition to the Blizzard and Power, both games taking place in West Division buildings. This will be the Woodsmen' first game back in 2 weeks, their last game coming back on November 16th as they battled it out with West Bend. Despite being on a small hiatus, Wisconsin has gone 7-2-1 in their last 10 and hope to climb the Central Division standings, while the Moose have been on a heater as of late, going 4-1 in their last 5. Flipping over to the second game, both Alexandria and West Bend have had great success so far this season as they both sit in second place in their respective divisions. Players from both the Blizzard and Power have earned league honors as of late, with Ashton Collins from Alexandria being named November's Forward of the Month, while the Power's netminder Adam Prokop was recently named the Central Division Star of the Week. In the East, the Titans will travel to Canton to take on the Generals for their third 2-game set of the season. When taking a look back at their previous meetings, Northeast has come away with 3 out of 4 wins, New Jersey's sole victory coming all the way back on opening night. In total, the Gens have put up 14 goals against the Titans, while New Jersey has put up 9 of their own. With the Gens rapidly climbing the East Division standings, it will be interesting to see how these 2 squads match up with one another for their 5th and 6th games of the year. In the Frontier, it's always a treat when Helena faces off with Great Falls, and fans will have another great game to watch on Saturday at Steed Arena. As most of you know, the Bighorns' only 2 losses of the year have been at the hands of the Americans, their last meeting coming on November 16th, as Great Falls came out on top by a final score of 2-1. With each organization winning 2 games apiece against one another so far this season, this tilt will be a key matchup to watch this weekend. Finishing things up in the South, the Rhinos will travel across the state to North Richland Hills to take on the Brahmas for their second 3-game set of the year. During each team's opening weekend, Chad Bailey and his squad won all 3 games by scores of 3-1, 4-1, and 3-0. This was impressive for the Brahmas as they scored 10 goals, only allowing 2 goals against. As we discussed earlier in the episode, it's worth noting that despite being 6th overall in the division, El Paso came away victorious during 2 of their 3 games with New Mexico last week, a pivotal turning point for Mike Rivera and his squad. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The 3 Show. We hope everyone travels safe to Blaine, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the NA3HL Showcase.